Welcome back to the Naval News, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Let's go ahead and get started with the United States Naval Institute wonderful weekly graphic of the deployments of our fleet, carrier fleets around the world. Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group continues to be in port in Japan, getting that maintenance that they need. The American Amphibious Ready Group is in Okinawa. Nimitz Carrier Strike Group operating in the Philippine Sea, looks like just a little north of Guam there. The Makin Island is conducting Gold Cobra exercise with Thailand and Japan. That just wrapped up over the weekend, so they're moving on from that. The George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group is in Suda, Greece, where they had a visit from movie star Tom Cruise, who is on board filming Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2. So we have that to look forward to, another Mission Impossible movie coming out sometime in the future. Gerald R. Ford is doing its final workup. This is the composite training unit exercise. This is a very complex 14 to 18 day exercise where they exercise the entire carrier fleet. This, I'm told, exercise is based on the Treasure Coast scenario. And while that scenario has gone through different iterations over time and has certainly changed from when I was in the Navy, it, generally speaking, has usually three other nations that the United States Navy is operating near. These are all fictional nations, right? But one nation is hostile, one is neutral, and one is an ally of the carrier fleet in the exercise. And typically what happens is the hostile fictional nation, in this case probably played by the Dwight D. Eisenhower, I think, would do some sort of hostile action in the gray zone. This is kind of a new thing because we're seeing it more and more with both Russia and China. Maybe not an active war, but something more aggressive towards a neutral nation in the exercise. And so that tests the operational commander on the scene to set proper rules of engagement before pushing back against the hostile actor. And this goes on for greater than 2 weeks, where there is a slow escalation. And at what point does the operational commander say, now is the time to shoot? And so this is a great exercise to confirm that we have the right people in making these decisions before they deploy. Now, that doesn't just stop at the operational level. All the way down to the deck plate level, we're running fire drills, torpedo evasions while all this is going on, near continuous flight operations day and night, no matter what the weather is, sorties all the time. It is a very arduous exercise, and it is the final exam before a carrier fleet goes on deployment. All carrier fleets, generally speaking, go through this Computex right before deployment. So we believe that Gerald R. Ford, whenever she finishes this exercise, will go back into port, get stocked up for deployment, and be deployed to the Mediterranean Sea, where she will relieve the George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group that's been operating in that theater for a good 9 months now, a long time. Time for those men and women to come home. So congratulations. And again, you can find out more information about these deployments at usni.org. I encourage everyone to go over there, make a free account. They have lots of publications that are free for anyone to read. They also have a paid side, but if you want to support them that way, but support the USNI news and usni.org if you can. All right, congratulations to Japan. Japan has commissioned Hull 2 of its Taiji class conventional submarine. The name of this submarine is the Haku-G. I'm saying that right. This is a conventionally powered submarine, but it is the latest design out of Japan. And in this class of submarine, they decided not to go with air-independent power or air-independent propulsion like a lot of other modern submarines are coming out with now. What this submarine class has done, the Taiji class, has gone with all lithium-ion batteries. Those are very dense energy cells that are also very efficient and can store an enormous amount of energy, allowing the submarine to stay submerged for extended periods of time, much like a nuclear submarine, but without all the noise of a nuclear power plant. And she's electrically driven, so she has the quietness and the sound silencing of an electric main primary mover with the efficiency of the ion batteries, the lithium ion batteries, and a pump jet, which is also highly efficient. So this submarine uses all the latest technologies. It does use a diesel generator to charge those lithium-ion batteries. I imagine because of the amount of power the lithium-ion batteries can store, it probably takes a while to charge the batteries back up to full charge, but we don't have any information on how big the diesel generator is. Maybe they put a big diesel generator on it. We don't know. They also improved the combat system on this, so that's new. So I marked the photo up here with a few things that I saw, with the exception of the torpedo tubes. Those are below the waterline, but they're still having torpedo tubes come out the bow here, which is kind of an old school design, but they continue to do it maybe because it's easier. I don't know. But that's the way this is. They have the flank sonar array. They also have a towed sonar array on a conventional submarine. That says a lot about the power of the primary mover, the engine, if you will, that turns the screw. If they can tow a towed array, they have confidence that they can stay submerged for a long period of time and then maintain speed. So that's a real indication there. You can also see the top of what I believe is the pump jet housing there. I tried to put an arrow on it for you. But no, this uses the latest technology available in Japan, and it's a very well-designed submarine. Not much is known about it. The public top speed is 20 knots, but it's a 3,000-pound submarine, which is just a little bit heavier than the Soryu, but has a much more efficient battery. So it probably goes faster than that. But publicly, we're just going to say it does 20 knots. And here's another photo of it for you. This one's of a little bit more of an acute angle where you can see more of the flank array there going down the side of it. Obviously, they covered the bow. It does have a bow array, bow sonar array, but with the torpedo tubes coming out the front, that would limit the size of the array on the bow to be, less than half of what it could have been had they gone with a different design. So probably not that great. They're probably using their flank array anyway, because those arrays are amazing. And of course, the towed array is good stuff. So congratulations to Japan, a great submarine, Hull 2. For those of you wondering about Hull 1, Japan has decided to make Hull 1 a test submarine. So that they're going to throw new technology on Hull 1, test it out, and improve the class so that future builds, and maybe even future classes, can take advantage of what they learn with this class of submarine. This one, though, Hull 2, is a fully, combat deployed submarine now, whereas Hull 1 will just do testing. All right, let's move on to China here. So China, if you may remember, back in August of 2022, severed dialogue with military commanders with the United States. They cut all lines of communication from their military commanders and ours. There might have been some political communication disruption as well. I don't get into that. But as far as the military go, their military on-scene operational level commanders have no direct line of communication with the American ones. And that is the state that it continues to be today. Here's a picture from November 2022 where Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Minister of Defense Wei Fanghe, requesting that lines of communication be restored between military operational commanders between the United States and China. He, at this time, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, pointed out the dangerous behavior of PLA-AF fighters and airplanes in and around the Australian P-8s, dumping fuel and causing, unsafe behavior within, 10 feet of another, airplane, just acting very aggressive. And China still has not agreed to reestablish these communications between military commanders. My understanding is the political dialogue has been restored, but as of the time of this recording, the military side of that equation has no direct lines of communication. And that is causing some uncertainty as to what the intentions are when these aggressive actions, whether it's in the South China Sea, Chinese Coast Guard getting in front of other ships, or it's a PLAF plane, coming nearly ramming into one of our maritime patrol aircraft. Okay. So what we're doing, what the United States is doing, is just looking at open sources and what China's public statements are to try and ascertain what their intention is. And this is a real problem. This is where mistakes can be made and escalations can happen. But this is also keeping in line with Chinese strategy. They love gray zone actions because they know they can't commit an act of war without, striking a war up. And they want to be expansionistic and push people out of the South China Sea as much as possible with the 9-dash line. So we are going to review the 9-dash line. Remember, this year, this channel, we're really focusing on China, and we're doing a number of pieces on the South China Sea. We already talked about the 9-dash line in a previous video, but I want to reiterate some key points. In 2013, and this trial lasted all the way through to 2016, the Philippines requested a judgment on China's authenticity or grounds basically for the 9-dash line claim. China, and I have the map up here for you. You can see those dashed areas. There's 9 of those, and China claims to have territorial and resource claims on everything inside those 9-dash lines. And so the Philippines went to the United Nations Convention of Law on the Sea, which is the ruling body here, and asked them for a judgment. And you can see here that both China and the Philippines are parties to this convention. They call it the Convention for short, of Law on the Sea. And this is what happened. Well, if you look at the picture above, you can see that China did not even show up to the hearing, saying that they did not want to participate or recognize the authority of the court that they had ratified the treaty to create. They're a party to this treaty, but yet whenever the question came up about their 9-dash line, they're like, we don't recognize your authority. So one of the first things the tribunal did was post Article 288 saying, in the event of a dispute on whether a court or this tribunal has jurisdiction, the matter shall be settled by the decision of the court or the tribunal. So that's already been written into the Articles of Confederation, and they've ratified it. China has ratified this. Also, they reminded them that Article 9, that if any one of the two parties come to the court and ask for proceedings, those proceedings will be granted to the parties. So China could have showed up and defended itself and chose not to. That in no way takes away from the ruling or the legality of the ruling. All right, so here's the press release from 2016 where the tribunal concluded, this is a quote, that there is no legal basis for China to claim historic rights to resources within the sea areas falling within the 9-dash line. Period. That's the end of the judgment. Now, this does go on for 11 pages, 6 of which are really taking it to China, telling them how egregious their claim is. And I'll let you read that. I'll link all this stuff in the description for you so you guys can read it for yourself. So let's move and take another look at the South China Sea. We've already talked about the 9-dash line in previous videos. Let's talk about what are these resources inside this 9-dash line and why is the 9-dash line so important for China. So credit here to CSIS, this is the Center for Strategic International Studies. They do great work over there, making great visuals, writing articles all about this topic. I will link this interactive map and their article accompanying it in the description below. So definitely check this out because this goes into much greater detail than what this general overview I'm giving you does. But this is the South China Sea. What you're looking at is all the gas and oil exploration and pumping and drilling that's going on in and around there. The different colors are representative of the different countries. So I've simplified that map to these key areas because these are the areas that overlap into that 9-dash line here. So we're just going to talk about this, but I would encourage you at the end to go to the links in the description and learn more about this. The more people that know how this works and why this is such an egregious claim by China, the more understanding everybody has about that, the better off we are. All right, let's begin with China's claim. So China has claim on the continental shelf. And the continental shelf, because of geography, between Vietnam and China, mainland China, they are the same continental shelf essentially. So they both have legal claims within their rights to claim resources on the continental shelf. So whenever two countries overlap like that, they can either work it out themselves or it's first come, first serve. In this case, China's there first. China last year started production on the Dofang 11 and the Lidong 221 gas fields. Those are already underway. In January of 2023, the Linsu development began. That's the 17-2 line there. And adjacent that, but not marked on this graphic, is the Linsu 251. Drilling has commenced on that field. So we can assume that gas extraction has already begun. But because these are overlapping claims, there could be a conflict here, but it's unlikely, and we have not seen in the past Vietnam, overly confront China. Usually it's the other way around, as we're going to talk about more. Let's move down the coast a little bit. This is where Vietnam has been focusing its energy kind of away from China into the southern and eastern shores of Vietnam. Here they've hired or licensed Harbour Energy, that's a UK energy group as I understand it, to connect a pipeline from the Tuna Block to Vietnam. So this company called Harbour Energy is going to conduct operations for drilling and extracting the gas and also build the pipeline. These are the southern zones that you see there over to Vietnam, so Vietnam can get that gas. The Chinese Coast Guard operates in and around these drilling facilities daily, and they frequently harass the ships that support and supply these offshore oil platforms and facilities. So some of the ways that they harass them is by simply getting in the way of a transiting supply ship or tugboat or whatever kind of support vessel, causing that support vessel to have to either slow down or go around. Anything that delays operation is a victory in this case for China. This is that gray zone operation I'm talking about. It's not an act of war to be reckless and drive in front of somebody. It's just stupid. It's dangerous, and they shouldn't do that. Something else that China does and tries to get away with is they operate their Coast Guard inside this 9-dash line as if it's Chinese territory, as they claim, trying to do Coast Guard safety inspections on board all these vessels that are trying to support these offshore oil rigs, causing a delay. If they agree to the inspection can last hours, and that's hours where the ship can be dead in the water, not conducting operations. Again, any kind of delay in the production, development, or supply of gas, extraction of gas to Vietnam or any other country is a victory for China, and it's a gray zone operation. So that's what they've been doing frequently around these southern areas. Up in the northern part of this graphic, you see the ExxonMobil operation is operating outside the 9-dash line, but it is very close to the Paracel Islands that are inside the 9-dash line. So China does claim the Paracel Islands as Chinese territory. And so if it is Chinese territory, which the convention says it's not, but if China uses that claim to claim the continental shelf, that would also claim where ExxonMobil is operating. And that is the largest gas project of Vietnam. So it's very valuable. It's something like 150 billion cubic meters of natural gas is estimated to be in that field. So that is a tempting target if China wants to escalate claims against Vietnam. That hasn't happened yet, but the Coast Guard harassment is nearly continuous in that southern region. So the tuna field there is also claimed by Indonesia, who hired the same country, licensed the same company rather, Harbour Energy out of the UK, to come and operate and extract gas from the tuna gas field on behalf of Indonesia. So in January of 2023, Indonesia authorized a $3 billion plan to further develop the tuna gas field. But since 2021, so this has been going on for a couple years now, China continues to harass vessels working in this area with their Coast Guard. That hasn't changed. Now, the Natuna D Alpha field is also claimed by Indonesia, but hasn't licensed its excavation or exploitation, whatever you want to call it, out yet. That license will be auctioned this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to Harbour Energy, since they've got, material and vessels in the vicinity right next door in the tuna field. Now, going a little bit north up the coast there, we have the Malaysian oil fields. This is on the opposite side, the eastern side of South China Sea there. So in September and December of 2022, gas was confirmed in these fields. So this is a relatively recent find, but confrontations between the Malaysian Navy and the Chinese Coast Guard go all the way back to 2020. So even before there was gas confirmed to be here, because it was suspected that it was likely there, the Chinese Coast Guard has already been operating aggressively in this area. Production and extraction of this gas is due to begin this year, 2023. And now in the deep water side, which is just north of the territory we were just looking at, there's some deep water exploitation blocks here. And these are going to be auctioned off, or have been auctioned off rather, to the French company Total Energies, the Malaysian Petronas company, and the United Kingdom's Shell company are going to begin operating in these deep water areas there. So this is the type of operation that China is pushing back against. Anything that's inside that 9 dash line that you see here on the graphic, they're using their Coast Guard to just harass in any way they can, short of violence, to slow down or prevent the development and extraction of these natural resources that China claims is theirs. Again, I'm going to link this map to you. This is an interactive map that you can mouse over and it'll give you all sorts of information. It's a great job by CSIS, and my hat's off to them for making this free and public. Well done. So let's talk about Philippines real quick. The pink in this area is the Philippine claim. They suspended oil and gas production all the way back in 2014 because of the harassment from China. Remember, Philippines is the one that went to the convention and asked for a tribunal to make a, make a ruling on this. And despite ruling in Philippines' favor, they have not resumed discovery and extraction operations in their fields. There is an older field called Cadalo, if I'm saying that right, I'm probably not, that was shut down in the 1990s. There's not much oil left in it. That's why it was shut down. But Philippines don't have any other oil extraction going on in the South China Sea at the moment. So they are planning on going back to this older field that's been shut down for 25 years and trying to get the last 5 million estimated barrels left out of that. So China, despite winning the ruling, Philippines, despite winning the ruling, still has not responded by continuing to develop their own oil fields. It's a shame. So these are the flashpoints that I see coming up in the South China Sea. There's already conflict or gray zone actions happening between the Coast Guard and the navies of these nations that you see here. And despite China's, 9-dash line has been unanimously rejected by the United Nations Convention Law on the Sea, Permanent Court of Arbitration, and there is no higher court for this ruling. They cannot appeal this to anybody else. And they did not, give their case. China didn't even show up to the hearings, but this is the international rule of law that the United States is trying to maintain in this region so that peace can reign throughout this whole area. But China is continuously pushing back against this, ignoring these judgments despite ratifying the organization from its inception and just not following the judgments of its own ratified court. Anyway, I look forward to your comments on this. I hope this helped you understand a little more of the value of the South China Sea and a lot of what's going on there and the straight illegal activity that China is performing. Something that China could do. I don't expect them to do this, but they could ask for a hearing specifically about the 9-dash line and present their own case. But there's no indication that that's going to happen whatsoever. They already had an opportunity to do that in 2013. They had 2013 to 2016 to even show up and present some evidence. And all they have is really their own bravado. They're continuing on basically historical inertia that was unanimously rejected in 2016. All right. Leave a comment below, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye.